Today I was a little bit late, but let's get to it. There's so many things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the judging and the Francis Ngannou fight. I want to talk about some of the things that MMA Guru said. In most cases, I don't like to talk. I don't really like to respond to things like that, but I felt like he was, even when he was admitting he was wrong, I felt like he was taking a jab at people who actually believed in, what do you call it, who believed in Francis Ngannou. So one of the things that he said was that the people who actually believed in Francis Ngannou did not actually believe that he would actually win. It was just a hunch. The same way people believed in, or rather, the same way no one could have predicted Sean O'Malley would actually beat, what do you call it, Aljamain Sterling. So it's insane for me for someone to say that because I predicted Dricus Duplessis would actually beat Robert Whittaker. I predicted Sean O'Malley would actually beat Aljamain Sterling, and I actually picked Francis Ngannou to actually beat Tyson Fury, of which I believe he actually did, because in my opinion, there were like at most I think Tyson Fury won approximately 4 rounds. In my personal opinion, he won maybe the first round, um, potentially the second round, maybe the fifth round, no, the sixth round and the seventh round. Um, let's say maybe five. Also, maybe, yeah, let's say approximately 5 rounds at most. And that's me being generous. Of course, because Francis Ngannou won a 10-8, number one, even if it was 5-5, Francis Ngannou should have won. Number two, there were so many fouls that Tyson Fury committed that he should have been, or rather, a point should have been taken away from him because he committed so many fouls. Like, at one point, I saw him trying to attempt to do like a guillotine or something like that when they were on the ropes. At one point, he landed an illegal elbow. At one point, it seemed like he wanted to take down Francis Ngannou. So those are some of the things that actually irritated me about this whole fight, but nothing irritated me more than the fact that the judges actually gave this fight to Tyson Fury, because anyone with eyes could have seen that that fight was clearly won by Francis Ngannou. I know there are a lot of people saying, no, that was close, it was close. I don't think so. I don't think so. There were rounds that, like, I will admit to that. That's why I said at most Tyson Fury won maybe 5 rounds at most. And with that 10-8, that should have guaranteed Francis Ngannou's win. But I think the biggest problem was that this is a guy who has no experience in boxing, who is coming in and beating the world heavyweight champion. It's crazy, but that's actually what actually happened. So these judges, I heard them, bragging about how many fights these particular judges have judged over the years. It seems like these judges have judged over 300 fights combined, according to the announcers. So they were bragging about that. So I was in my head. I think even Francis said the same thing, that those type of judges would never, because it's embarrassing to the sport. Francis Ngannou actually embarrassed the sport because they would never have allowed. Francis Ngannou could have knocked out Tyson Fury and they still wouldn't have allowed it. They would have found a way to make it a no contest. Because think about it, someone who's never boxed in their entire life came in and beat the heavyweight champion. Like think about how crazy that is. So these people were never going to allow that to happen to their sport, to their champion, and that's basically why I feel like Francis Ngannou got robbed in a sense, because they would never have allowed that to happen. They would never, ever, ever, ever have allowed that to happen. So it also surprises me when people like the MMA guru is like, no one could have predicted that. And even if someone actually was saying what they believe in Francis Ngannou, they didn't actually believe that he could have been technical. Go to my breakdown. Like I actually made a live breaking down, or rather speaking about this particular fight, whereby I explained that Francis Ngannou initially, before he came into MMA, he actually had aspirations of becoming a boxer. That's how he got spotted. That's how he got noticed. You know, someone noticed it. I think I broke it. I explained it in the beginning of that video. I explained that this guy has an actual genuine chance, and I told people, I was like, I wouldn't compare him to Conor McGregor. I wouldn't compare him to Nate Diaz. I wouldn't compare him to Ben Askren. I wouldn't compare him to Tyrone Woodley. I actually said this in my previous breakdown. I actually told people that this would actually happen. And it's crazy to me that that guy was saying, the MMA guru that is, would say things like no one actually believed Francis, and even those that actually believed in Francis Ngannou, it was more of hate for Dana White than it was support for Francis Ngannou, which is crazy to me. You know, even the confidence that he has in saying that no one could have predicted Sean O'Malley, for example, beating Aljamain Sterling. I did it. Go to my channel, go to my shorts. You know, I did it. I actually predicted Sean O'Malley beating Aljamain Sterling. I predicted Dricus du Plessis beating Robert Whittaker. I predicted so many fights, so many wins that people didn't actually believe would actually become a reality, that would come to fruition. So it's crazy to me that this is actually an opinion of someone, and he's actually saying all of this when he's trying to apologize. But I think I've said a mouthful with regards to that. But back to my point as to how it's incredibly sad for what happened to Francis Ngannou to actually have taken place. You know, I think something needs to be done, not just with boxing judges, but I think I used to say MMA judges are horrible. Boxing judges are even worse. That was a clear win for Francis Ngannou. That's one of the most clearest wins for anybody. How do you get knocked down, commit so many fouls, and still win a fight? Like, how? Because if there were rounds that he won, I can agree to that, but it wasn't as close as people make it out to be. Francis won that fight fair and square. But nonetheless, I'm glad that I'm not the only one who sees it. I think there are so many videos everywhere, every platform that I've ever seen. I've never seen anyone say Francis lost that fight. To this day, every single video that I've seen on YouTube specifically, everyone is saying the same thing. Francis was robbed. And I'm glad that the guy is actually finally getting his flowers, because it's been a very, very long journey for him. It's been a hard journey for him, and I'm honestly glad for him. He deserves all of this. So now it's exciting. I can't wait. I wish there was a way for the PFL and UFC to make a plan and allow John Jones and Francis Ngannou to fight. But after seeing what Francis can do with his hands, man, I feel bad for John Jones if that fight ever happens. But we all know that it probably won't. We probably know that it will never happen. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I feel like I forgot a couple of things. I had notes, but I forgot them. I had to come to work as soon as possible. So I apologize for that. Hopefully, I'm able to maybe make another video whereby if ever there's anything that I forgot to mention in this particular live, I'll try to mention it on that. I love the child Sonins. I hope I pronounced this name properly. I love Son Child Sonin. I liked his reaction. I liked his video about Francis Ngannou and how he felt about the decision that actually was made. Even though Child and Francis Ngannou seemingly do not get along that well, I love the fact that he was honest about that, but was able to put that aside and actually speak on how unfair it was for what happened to Francis to happen to him. Because the guy came from a very, very, very hard situation, especially after leaving the UFC. Even though I believed in Francis, I was really worried in the beginning. I was like, man, I just hope that people do not take advantage of him, because at this point, after leaving the UFC, especially in the way that he left, it felt like he was vulnerable in a sense that people could take advantage of him. And I was worried about that. And I'm glad that he proved everyone wrong. At this point, Francis is going towards the direction of becoming the best combat athlete in the world. How do you go from being a UFC, an MMA champion, to actually beating, and I say beating because those judges don't know what they're talking about. He actually beat the boxing heavyweight champion from becoming the UFC champion. How does that even happen? It's crazy to even think about, because it means now the only sport that probably Francis would not have, as far as combat, I'd say the only sport that's left is maybe kickboxing, which I think he would actually do well in. I'm looking forward to his MMA fight. I don't know who he's going to fight, but I'm 100% sure that now that fight is going to get a lot of attention. People were doubting the fact that he would actually, before we even get there, people were saying, no, he doesn't sell fights, he doesn't sell fights. Now I'm sure he sells fights. After that, Francis sells fights. I'm super, super, super happy for that guy, man. Like he's worked his ass off to get to this point, and I'm glad that he's getting what he deserves. Yeah, this is the end of the live. Thank you for watching. I'll try to be a little bit more prepared next time. See you next week for the Almeida versus Lewis fight. I'm excited for that card, especially for Rinat and what do you call him? The other guy, Dos Santos. That fight is gonna be sick. Also, Abus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name properly. Abus Magomerov versus Caio Borralho, something like that. That's also going to be a sick fight. I'm excited for that. Even the main event is really interesting because people are counting out Lewis, Derek Lewis, but people are forgetting what Derek Lewis did to Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is an incredible wrestler, but Francis knocked him out when he was trying to get a takedown. So people shouldn't forget that when we're going into that main event, because he could shock us. Even though I picked Delton Almeida, this fight could go either way, because keep in mind what he did to Blades. But this live was about Francis, so let me not go into MMA. I'll see you guys next week when I react to that particular card. I'm sure you guys are as excited as I am. Thank you for watching. Ciao.